Don't get in between me and my beef. Or we'll have a beef.
A warm welcome to you all. This video is all about whether keto harms the heart. I'm JJ, I am a life coach, and I eat mostly meat and have been able to lower my thyroid medication.
Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty good. Well, I'm Eric, I'm a novelist, and I eat mostly meat, and I have eliminated GERD and IBS.
So you brought up this article yesterday, was it?
It was this morning.
This morning, oh.
It feels like yesterday because you've been busy. And whenever I see Harvard and health, I immediately get incensed. And that's not a great way to live because they have a lot of publishing around health. Keto diet is not healthy and may harm the heart, from Harvard Health Publishing, part of the Harvard Medical School.
Now, your parents used to get the Harvard
Heart Newsletter.
Heart Newsletter.
It was a physical newsletter my dad subscribed to because he wanted to find out all of the salt-cutting, fat-cutting, whole grain eating tips so that he didn't have to get more angioplasties and more stents, which failed because he ended up getting more stents. And I can only imagine what might have happened if he hadn't got the advice he had gotten when he was 60 and had his first angiogram or angioplasty and had gone carnivore. Who knows?
I read the article.
Yeah.
And you dug into some of the research.
Yeah, because it cites, according to a review in the March 2024 issue of Current Problems in Cardiology. This Harvard article is really just kind of a couple of paragraphs about this other analysis that was done. But what really got me going was, it says, the review summarized the current evidence on how keto diets may raise heart disease risk. While the diet may dramatically reduce fat mass and weight over the short term, there is scarce evidence for any long-term benefit. Ketogenic diets appear to lower blood levels of triglycerides, but raise levels of artery clogging LDL cholesterol.
Oh my gosh.
With respect to lowering blood sugar and blood pressure, the observed short-term benefits fade over time. Yeah.
Wait, I'm coming.
Oh, hold on.
Wait.
The diet's extreme carbohydrate restrictions may lead people to shun most vegetables and fruits and consume large amounts of leafy greens. And you know what? They're terrible because the vitamin K in these foods may interfere with the anti-clotting drug warfarin taken by some heart patients, and drugs known as SGLT2 inhibitors, which are used to treat diabetes and heart failure, may be incompatible with the keto diet, according to the review. Because if you start eating all those leafy greens, your medicines aren't going to work. So I don't know what it is. Are you supposed to eat them or not?
I particularly like how the diet may dramatically reduce fat mass and weight over the short term. It's like gaslighting almost.
Yeah, they were like, well, we have to acknowledge, how do we acknowledge that people get some results, but they're fake results?
They're fake. They are
those results are not real.
No?
Even though you've lost some fat mass, it's only over the short term.
Yeah.
So I don't know, how long have you been doing this?
I have been doing it for 18 months.
And has the fat mass just sprung back?
No, as a matter of fact, I just got back from my doctor.
Oh yeah, what did he say?
He was thrilled. I've lost a few more pounds since I was in. I go every quarter. It's my hormone doctor. And I did not lose any fat or any muscle mass. So my muscle mass has remained the same, and I've lost about 5 pounds of fat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I clicked through to this study, the current it was an analysis. And it was actually quite detailed. They cite a lot of different studies to support their conclusion, and their conclusion is that a keto diet is inconsistent with the European Cardiology Society's recommendations for a healthy diet. And what's interesting to me is, in the analysis, they keep referring to what is an actual healthy diet in their opinion, and how keto is contrary to that. And so it's a little bit circular. And so it became very clear to me that even though they call it conclusion, and then they write their conclusion of their analysis, it was the first thing they wrote. And they then went and backfilled all of the cherry-picked studies they could find in order to try to indicate that keto is harmful for heart health.
Well, that's shocking.
I know. Can you believe there's duplicity, lies, and interestingly constructed information in the health realm?
I'm shocked. I'm just shocked.
I know it shakes the foundation of what you believed was just the pure honesty of all involved.
I looked at some of my favorite doctors. Mm-hmm. One being Dr. Ben Bickman, who's a PhD scientist, studies obesity, specializes in diabetes and insulin, hyperinsulinemia. It's a hard word to say. And Dr. Eid.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Eid is a psychiatrist. Yeah. But I looked at some of their work. Now, Dr. Ben Bickman has the book, Why We Get Sick, I believe it's called. So in his book, he talks about how insulin resistance and cardiovascular disorders are almost inseparable. That's his quote, actually. And he says high blood pressure, insulin affects blood volume and can also signal for endothelium in blood vessels to get thicker. To grow. It's a growth hormone, and it causes them to grow and the arteries to narrow, creating blood pressure issues as part of CVD, cardiovascular disease. He also talks about how elevated insulin activates inflammation, which made me go to Dr. Eid, the inflammation word. Now, she deals predominantly with the brain, so I did a little more research and learned about those inflammatory cytokines. Our normal sort of recommended diet, which is high in grains, high in sugars, high in starches, it creates inflammatory cytokines in our body. That leads to endothelial dysfunction again, the inside of your blood vessels. Smooth muscle proliferation. They stimulate the growth of smooth muscle cells in the artery wall, contributing to plaque buildup, blood clot formation, instability of plaques within the blood vessels. So these are all reasons why the actual healthy, heart-healthy diet is actually a major contributor if you actually look at the physiology of it. Yeah.
There's a fork in the road with this.
Okay.
Because you could say, well, the European Cardiology Association, or whatever they're called, either is just wrong about the science because they just have a built-in bias where they can't see past it.
True.
And they're just thinking, oh yeah, you should eat the Mediterranean diets, and you should eat all the grains and all the salmon and get rid of all the beef, and eat the olive oil and the nuts. And that's going to be good for your heart. And we have epidemiological evidence that we think supports this. That's the charitable fork. But you could also say, well, cardiologists need to do bypasses and put in stents. And that would be the conspiratorial side of it. It was like, well, keep them eating grains so that we have an endless supply of patients. Now, I tend to be on the side of they mean well. It's hubris. They actually think they know more than they do. And they think these recommendations are correct. But it's hard sometimes when you see articles like this where they just come out and say keto diet is not healthy and may harm the heart. That's deciding the narrative first and trying to backfill science-y evidence that isn't in fact science. And that starts to make this cheerful novelist irritable. Which is why I sent it to her so she could get irritable.
So I could get irritated too.
Like, you need to be riled up to be as mad about something as I am.
It's hard for me to get riled up. Especially when I'm eating this way.
Because you're always so happy and full of ketones.
Oh. But this is, your family has heart disease in it. My family has heart disease in it. Deaths from heart disease. I'm just so worried for other members of my family who are taking this as the gospel.
Yeah, they think, well, I read from Harvard, which is quickly becoming a disqualification in my mind when it comes to health stuff. There was a different institute within Harvard that within the past year had a article about how red meat causes diabetes. And I remember going, I freaked out when I read.
Did you freak your head off?
I freaked my head off. Well, when I read that, and I was like, mechanistically, how does red meat cause diabetes? And there was nothing in the article about it because that wasn't the point of the article. And when you clicked through to understand this sub-institute within Harvard, which, understand, it is a giant organization with many, many, many organizations within it. And their whole thing was, we just want to get rid of eating meat. That was kind of their advocacy.
Well, and I think that is really the problem, is that there are these huge, huge organizations and businesses behind this narrative.
Yeah.
And if the emperor stands in front of the mirror and sees that they are naked, the whole system collapses.
Yeah.
I mean, how do they pay their people? Who loses jobs?
Yeah, we live in a society of complex humans with varying motives, and it's frustrating.
Very frustrating.
And I'm sure that there's really well-meaning vegans and vegetarians who would watch this and go, Eric and JJ are just deluded, or they are grifters, or they're in on some sort of conspiracy to make people sick, making them eat meat. So I can see it from the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it really does devolve into polarized camps of narrative, and individual health has nothing to do with it after a while. Which is why we've had to be N of one experiments on ourselves, because you could read very credible and contradictory books about a topic, and you'd never know what to do. You just have to try something, and then when you find something that makes us feel as good as we feel and has helped us resolve the issues it's helped resolve,
so many other health issues
you do end up going, I think this is the way.
Yeah.
And so I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, Harvard did not convince me.
Yeah. Don't get in between me and my beef. Or we'll have a beef. Gotta shake out the aggravation and return to peaceful ketosis equanimity.
That might kill you.
So if you want to hear more about what us non-doctors, I repeat, non-doctors, have to say about carnivore and the heart, check out this video.